Hello, welcome to Retro Toy Princess. I am Allison Troy, and my guest today is Derek J Hoover from the Yesterdaze podcast.
Hello, all.
So here we are, and we're going to be coloring some Bravestarr today because that's what I told Derek we were going to color today. But why did I tell you we were going to color that today, Derek? Why is Bravestarr important?
I can't remember. It's been a long 48 hours.
Yeah, right. And quickly we'll address that. This is a pre-record. We are recording this sometime in the spring for airing sometime in the summer so that Allison can take some vacation time.
Yeah.
It's because you did an episode of Yesterdaze about Bravestarr.
Oh, my showy show.
Yeah, your show.
Yeah. That's right.
I
forgot.
Yeah, right.
I forgot all about it.
Wait, for like 15 seconds, you forgot you do a show.
Yeah, 15 seconds of bliss. I forgot about that.
Oh, you know, it happens.
I'm kidding. I love doing it. It's a good time. Yeah, I think Bravestarr was episode 3. No, episode 2.
Yeah, I think you did Mask for episode 1.
That is a bingo.
I remember that because I timed shorts for a couple of those early episodes. So.
Yes, you did.
And then you did Visionaries, and I was like, I don't yet have Visionaries.
I sure did.
But I do now have Visionaries. I still haven't done a short for Visionaries because I want people to watch my shorts and Visionaries.
My number scared you?
I don't know. Like it's interesting. I did the live stream though with Andrew from Gady's Toys about Visionaries, and that episode actually has a pretty good rewatch. I think that's
that did terrific.
So I'm doing all right with it. I'm not sure what Andrew's numbers are like, but I also think it's because everyone secretly is in love with Andrew because he's so dreamy.
He is an attractive man.
He is. So
God, he's got great hair too.
Good hair. He fills out that road costume pretty well.
You damn right.
And what's great is he'll be watching this, and and we're not going to warn him that there's like seconds of Andrew thirst in here. So surprise, Andrew.
I'm gonna say it. I'm straight, but I ain't that straight.
But you know, I don't date gay men anymore because that was what my 20s were for, But I would risk being, the hag again, just for a moment of his dreamy eyes. And he gives good hair flip. Like you can just tell if he's got even just a little bang, he just.
Oh, I'm sure he's got that. And it's perfect.
Yeah,
he is just 5 shades of Werewolves of London. His hair is perfect.
Well, the hair flip is like that Cameron Diaz and Charlie's Angels hair flip level of like magnificence. Like,
oh hell yeah,
he flips it, there's the gong, everything. It's like Jaws zoom camera, like you're just like, oh my god. So anyway, now that the Andrew Gady's Toy Love Fest is over,
now we're going to talk about Brick's hair.
Yeah, let's talk about Brick's hair. Brick's got good hair too.
Let's just talk about the hair in this community.
Yeah, right? I was looking at mine earlier. I need to go get highlights. I've been rewatching all of my episodes, and I'm like, my lighting does not do anything for my ginger hair. So I'm just like, it's as you get older and you're a ginger, you have a couple things that happen. Either you get super coppery and you get the Bonnie Raitt skunk streak, or it just goes completely white, or it does what mine is doing, where it gets darker and looks brown. So
See, I'm hoping I get blonde guy white like Roger Slatterly in
yeah,
Mad Men. That's what I'm really hoping for.
Kenny
We'll see.
Rogers, Michael McDonald, the like
Oh, Michael McDonald, yeah.
the silver.
Yamo be there.
That's cool.
That is what I'm shooting for.
So for those wondering about the coloring, I don't know. JB has so many different color schemes. I feel confident that this blue is closer to the toy prototype that existed. This is where Andrew will correct me in the chat during the premiere if I'm wrong. But I feel like she had a blue scheme, whereas with the cartoon, it was either gray, black, or brown.
Yeah, cartoon was like grays and blacks. Her hat was a brown. Because I'm doing cartoon colors myself, but
well, it changed a couple. I remember this because when I was doing that short, it was really early in my process of making shorts. I remember spending that entire weekend messaging with you, like, "Oh my god, like there are 3 different color schemes. What the f?" And us both taking it very. It's funny because that was much earlier in my YouTube and very early in Yesterdaze, and I'm just like. Thinking now, like I was thinking about that today while I was getting everything ready for this episode. I was like, he and I do still spend a lot of time on both of our, the content that we're making, but I don't think we would, either of us would spend an entire weekend going back and forth about the different variations of JB's outfit the way we did that.
Oh, there was certainly a level of neurosis in those early days.
There are a bunch of shorts that I'm ending. Well, this will air during sort of the tail end of my 1 year of daily shorts. There are a bunch of shorts I've been sitting on because I'm like, those aren't very good. I'm like, I'll redo those later and like drop them and they'll be great. And I'm now getting toward the end of the 1 year of shorts.
Yeah.
And I was sort of assessing what I need to like make the year. And I was like, yeah, these aren't good, but fuck it. They're just going to go. The internet doesn't like them. They can dislike it and the engagement will be great. So there are a couple that I was like, this will never see the light of day. They are about to see the light of day, people.
Oh my stars and garters.
Yeah. Because I was like, well, if somebody's like, I had one short where somebody was like, I could do better than that.
Oh, could you,
like,
Jeremy?
Oh my God, I can't wait to see what you come up with. And then it got another 2,000 views. It's one of my biggest shorts ever. And I was like, okay, so if somebody comes at me, the wide-eyed, I didn't realize that I'm clapping back. Clap back is the way to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Be encouraged. Oh my God, I can't wait to see it.
Everyone's so creative.
Right? Oh my God, I love that lady. That's my favorite thing on TikTok.
Oh, it is.
Like, I will log on to TikTok and it'll be like just 17 of her videos, and then sandwiched between will be somebody from like the manosphere, and I'll be like, what is, and then of course morphs into a takedown, and I'm like, okay, thank God.
What am I doing? Allison, we have a special guest in the retro basement.
Julie.
Somebody's talking to me.
Hi. Hello.
Did you hear that melodious voice? That's one Shauna Mari, the love of my life. We're coloring Bravestarr, darling.
That looks nice.
Am I doing good?
You're doing a great job.
Excellent.
Thanks, Mom.
Hold it up later. Shauna can hear me. Shauna, just rest assured, at some point you will be joining me for one of these.
That's right. Come around here. You want to come around here? Say hi.
Just pop in real quick. This is a pre-record, so if you have complete different feelings about this later, I can go in and edit like a smiley face or something over you.
She's been getting a little more intrepid because she's been helping me with the YouTube adapting stuff to YouTube, and she made her own gave herself her own ID card, and gave herself her own code name. It's the Potato Chip Kid.
It's good to see. I mean, you're doing all the work and the behind the scenes support. You might as well get some recognition for it.
You're damn right.
Life is short and you're doing it for free. Find the perks where you can.
Damn right.
It's like the first. Oh, sorry.
Oh, are you okay? I know. She's in the middle of finals, and it is angering up her Polish blood.
Oh yeah. No finals.
Well, you know what? You're my favorite co-ed.
Oh. Oh, that's so cute.
Oh,
it's cool though that you guys are still into each other, because most people together quite that long or not. So
yeah, I've seen some people at the because we'll at the time of recording, we will hit 10 years on May 17th.
Oh my!
And yeah,
that's a good number.
And a lot of people, when they get to about that stage, I've seen a lot of people not survive that
right
long. So I think part of what makes it worse is I used to be such a wild one.
Yeah.
And I don't know, just to find somebody who gave me that little zhoosh factor on day one. Yeah, like it's
good.
funny. The day we met, because we met on Tinder, believe it or not, and
no,
we talked for like 2 weeks, and then it was my 32nd birthday, the weekend of my 32nd birthday. And I was like, I want to meet you. I want to see you. It's my birthday this weekend. It would be rad if you came up. And at the time, she lived in Tennessee with.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Aren't we all? She made the drive. She made the drive, came up and saw me. We went and got ice cream together at this awesome little spot in Peoria. And I knew right then and there. And she went home, and that evening I met up with some friends who happened to be in town, and then met up with some other friends that I usually hung out with. And like, so you met the girl you're talking to? Like, how'd that go? I'm like, oh no, yeah, I'm gonna marry her. Nice. And they looked at me like I was a psycho.
Because
that's kind of psychotic.
Yeah, but like,
a little.
Sometimes you just know, like,
yeah. Well, and like in their defense, I had spent because I was married before I met Shauna. I was divorced and stuff, and it was not at all awesome.
That explains the introduction to your book.
I don't think I sent you the picture. I'll have to find it. Nate, Nostalgia Nate.
No, you sent that. Yeah, you sent the picture.
He's like, hey, I fixed this.
Well, it's funny because I was going to recommend it to somebody, but then I remembered you had said you were going to go in and tweak that. And I'm like, I'll wait until afterwards and then tell them to go buy it then, so that, they're getting the most recent version.
Yeah. I mean, God only knows when we're going to do that. We have so much stuff going on, and it's one of those things where it's like, I still care about it. And I'm still proud that I did it. I mean, to go from writing the first draft in college after a bender to actually formatting it and everything else. But yeah, one of these days we've really got to change it.
It's a pretty good accomplishment, though. Like,
I'm just happy people like it when they read it. That just gives me a thrill. So.
Yeah, no, I found it quite enjoyable. I mean, like, obviously, like, because you were like, well, there's some stuff, and like, and I'm like, yeah, I can see that, because, but also it's old. I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, it's an older piece of fiction, and like, writing has changed. It's weird, like, because most Wednesdays, every other Wednesday, I have a critical writing group, and it's just been interesting, like, because one of the things I've been taking to my writers group is a really old, about 10, 15-year-old thing. set in the 90s and early 90s, you know, like 92-ish. And what's been funny about that is we have a millennial, and every so often something will come up and the millennial will be, well, I don't understand why they don't just do this. And it's like, because you couldn't just do that in 1992.
Yeah.
And like, why doesn't the character called 9? Because it's like a suspense, horror, thriller, mystery thing. And like, well, why aren't they calling 911? And I'm like, because of this part of the South, not everywhere had 911 in 1992. And like, just the confusion. It's like, 911 was a city for, you know, for big cities and, you know, northern states. Like, not all of this. I remember when we got 911, we had to add, because we were in a very rural area. Suddenly our road went from being like country route 17 to having an actual name.
Yeah.
And actual numbers, so that, you know, 911 could find us if we called them to be like, hey, you need to come send the game warden out to get this gator out from under the house.
Sometimes I forget just how rural you were. You were gator rural.
It was rural juror time.
Rural juror. I was just going to rural juror.
Yeah, it's funny because when that was on, I'm like, yeah, nobody can really say rural. Like, it's just one of those words. And so often those of us who have to say it are from rural areas. And because it's so hard to say, it's like people think we're dumb anyway because we got these accents and then we have to say rural.
What are you doing to me?
Yeah, and the only way to say rural is you almost have to have a rural accent to even get it out there. Or it comes out rural. It's like whoever came up with that word obviously knew what they were doing.
Was a masochist.
It was obviously a Yankee. So
you carpetbagging some bitch.
It was like a Yankee librarian scholar type who had some issues, and he didn't get invited to the Swamp Cotillion that year. He wanted a mint julep and he got a whiskey sour.
I'll teach you for not inviting me to the ice cream social.
Right? Oh my God. Oh, the South.
Yeah. That's a fun thing about Illinois is Illinois is kind of a little bit of everything. So I'm dead center. And for the most part, my like voice or accent, I tend to be slightly non-regional sounding, but there's times I'll listen to the podcast and I'll hear like the Midwest O. Like I listened to the Larry Kenny episode and I heard myself say co-host. I say co-host. I'm like, God damn it.
Every so often. Normally you have a very non-regional is what it's what I used to refer to it as when people would be like, he talks so proper. It's like, no, I just know that there are parts of the world that I want to go where they're going to think I'm stupid if I sound like this.
Yeah.
And so I would practice talking like people on TV.
Yep.
And then I moved to the Pacific Northwest. So when I got up here, somebody was like, oh, well, you know, like the way in the 70s and 80s, most of the sort of national newscasters were trained in this area. So like you're going to, the non-committal, non-denominational accent you have.
Non-denominational?
Yeah, it's come around here. So. But if I get drunk or really tired or really mad, you either get Texas or Louisiana, or if I watch too much Swamp People. So, sometimes I'll slip into it. Like earlier I said gator, and if I had not been careful when I said gator and not emphasized it as gator, and I had strayed too far into Louisiana with that, it would be all over. So
big old gator there, boy.
Right? Oh yeah, people were like, when the Water Boy came out. I'm like, it's a little exaggerated, but it's not that exaggerated.
Yeah, so Sean is from Chicago, and she will sometimes sit there and try to insist there's not a Chicago accent. I'm like, oh, darling, yes, there is.
There is. And what's ironic is there are a lot of people from that part of Chicago that are from Chicago, but if you ask them where they're from Chicago.
Chicago?
And I'm like, I can't sort of get when somebody from sort of my part of the country couldn't say it. Because, you know, I mean, there are a lot of people where I'm from who go to the library and don't, and they got good ideas and they don't realize that they're saying that. And I, you know, like, no, you know, I don't say that to be rude to the people where I'm from, because if I were trying to be rude to them, there are different things I would say to them. You know, I'd be like, that's a really nice tooth you have there. Nice. You didn't get the set. Anyway. I
ain't seen teeth that nice since they were store-bought.
I haven't seen teeth that nice since your grandma's fell out of her mouth over the chili of the other night. Are you sure you didn't take grandma's teeth again? You know she won't leave the house without her teeth.
I will have Pennsylvanian isms pop out because the dreaded Susan's parents were from Pennsylvania. My grandma and grandpa.
Susan.
At home, Susan. Lo and behold, she came up today.
Did you not weigh the body down enough at the bottom of the well?
Unfortunately, no. Pop back up. She's a witch. Burn her.
Hey, I know some witches. They're much nicer than that.
Yeah. I was going to say, any witch I've ever met, way cooler.
Much cooler.
No, her parents both were from Catani. Catani. So a lot of Yuns. Yuns come over here.
Oh, yeah.
What you're going to want to do, Yuns going to want to come over here. The wash was always called the wash.
The wash.
Yeah. I will say this because we talk about life quite a bit. That woman may suck, but her parents and her older sister and older brother, amazing people. I don't know what happened. I'm convinced she was swapped at birth.
Well, it's probably like in The Omen, like where they open the vault and there's a jackal in there, and they're like, "Oh my god!" And I'm just like, son of a bitch, indeed. And you know that's exactly how Moby's dad found out.
Oh my god, how perfect was that? Dustin sent that last night. I'm like, oh, I need to send that to Allison like right now.
Oh yeah, that. Well, it's funny because I get that at least once a week now.
Oh no shit.
Oh yeah, people all the time like, oh my god, do you remember when this happened? I'm like, mm-hmm.
Well, I guess right now it's like I think it's like a 30th anniversary or something going on for Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
It's about right.
And there's been like a live stream on for I'd say the better part of 2 weeks. So co-host and editor Dustin has just been doing a boatload of editing, and he just had it on, and he snapped that. And I'm like, oh shit, Moby was on an episode.
Yeah.
Nobody
cares, Moby. Like even Space Ghosts knew back in the day.
Oh yes.
Oh, Moby. Poor Moby.
You're terrible, son.
I have a friend whose parents live by him in Los Angeles, and
I'm sorry.
I know, right? Her parents are very lovely as well, and it's just like, I was like, next time I come to LA, let's go visit your parents. So I'm like, what are their memories like? Would they notice if I slipped away for 20 to 30 minutes? And she was like, no. I'm like, okay, we'll never talk of this again. And I was there the entire time.
Exactly. No slipping away, no phantom emails. Wink,
nothing.
Wink. None of that.
Right? Nothing. Let the record show that I was merely standing there the entire time.
Whatever do you mean?
So anyway, I might go to LA in June.
Well,
because sometimes you just go to
for
LA
reasons. For reasons.
Because June is the best time to go to LA. It's so pleasant there. It's the best time of the year.
Sadly, the farthest west I've been is like Missouri or Iowa.
Oh, I have family in Missouri. I'm sorry.
It
wasn't all bad. I went to Lake of the Ozarks.
There is like a lot of nice stuff to do, and it's very beautiful there.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you this much, especially given little Henry's birthday, because we went there for his birthday. The drive to St. Louis, even though my area is equidistant to Chicago, we are the halfway point.
Yeah.
It's why Peoria used to be like way more prominent. Like, kids, if you've ever heard the phrase "it'll play in Peoria," it's here. The drive to St. Louis is infinitely better, infinitely easier, much more calm. Man, I get to about Bolingbrook and I'm ready to like rip somebody's jugular out with my teeth. Can I say that?
Oh yeah, that's fine. I'm not monetized yet. There were, because I have family there. There were a couple times we would drive up.
Yeah.
And there was one year we drove, and it was with my aunt. And I think my aunt and Susan would get along.
Oh, that aunt.
Yeah, that one. The one time I was like, if you change the A and the C in aunt, it still fits you. Anyway,
waka waka.
She did not appreciate my humor.
No, why is she such a wet blanket?
I don't know.
She just sounds like ants at a picnic.
She's like whenever you go out in the yard barefoot and you step in dog poop and it squishes between your toes.
Oh, I wouldn't know what that's like in this.
And then you go to like the water hose and the hose is not connected, so you have to connect the hose, and it won't. You know how like it never wants to screw properly onto the like faucet whenever. Yeah,
and you're just sitting there with shit toes.
She's like that for the entire process of finally getting the water on and then scrubbing everything, and like having to, and we always had like the little fire hose. What is it? The little like gun at the end of it. The
spigot or sprayer.
Yeah, whatever. The sprayer. That's what we. Yeah. I don't know if that's the real name. That's the sprayer. It's been a while since I've had a sprayer. That was the guy in college we called Slimer. But anyway, but the entire process of that is like being around her. The dog poop between your toes, not being able to get it rinsed off quick enough.
Just sounds delightful.
And then you kind of have to dance around, and then the entire neighborhood saw that, and they're like, "What were you doing in your yard? Is that some new fancy dance?" It's like, no, dog shit between my toes. Thanks for asking.
Don't worry about what I was doing, Heather.
Why don't you stop looking out of your blinds, my friend?
Yeah. You like that damn nosy Mrs. Kravitz or the goddamn Ogmonix and Elf.
Do you ever listen to country?
Some. I'm very, very, very picky about it.
Okay. Have you ever heard the trailer song by Casey Crow? I think her name is Casey Musgraves is her name. There's a line and it's like, "Girl, we ain't friends, we're just neighbor."
I think I
your trailer. It's pretty. I'll send it to you on the YouTube later. But literally, the first time I heard that, I'm like, "Oh my god, that is my childhood in the South." Like, there's always somebody in their blinds watching everything, acting holier than thou, and it's like, "Ma'am, you are living in a trailer, and just because my trailer that we're living in is fancier and more expensive does not mean." Any of us are. It's like we're still living in trailers and we're not friends.
Yeah. Anytime I see anything related to like peeking out the blinds, all I ever think about, and I'll usually say it as well because I'm a crazy person. I think of Leslie Jones in the Alexa for old people ad on SNL.
Oh my God.
What are them boys doing?
Oh my God, that was such a good. I miss Leslie Jones on Saturday Night Live.
She's one that she ended up growing on me. Like the first time I saw her, I didn't know what to think at first, but then I think it was I saw the Weezer sketch with her and Matt Damon. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, we're in.
It helped. It really at first it was hard because, quite honestly, when they first would start bringing her out, it was, oh, like we need an extra black person in this role. So a lot of her early stuff was just like, oh, we need a black person for this sketch. Where Leslie Jones took off is when it started being, we need Leslie Jones in this sketch.
Right.
And like suddenly she got to just be Leslie Jones, and it wasn't them like, and it was because they just started actually writing for Leslie Jones rather than, oh, we're writing a black character, get Leslie out here.
Yeah.
That's where I noticed it shifted.
I think that was why, like, initially I was like, what? Because it just felt like they were writing a caricature.
Mm-hmm. No, Saturday Night Live. I love Saturday. I mean, like, I'm old enough that, I remember watching Gilda Radner and Bill Murray and, the original, the OG SNL with my uncle, because that was part of why he moved to New York back in the day was so that he could try to be the closest he got was he worked at one of the bars where they would go to after shows in the 80s, and Jan Hook thought he was sweet. But yeah, like she for me took off when they stopped trying to make fetch happen with her and let her be Leslie Jones.
That is one thing. Like when I was a kid, all I wanted was to be on SNL. I wanted to be on SNL so bad.
Yeah.
And life happens, and not everybody finds their way to something like that. But like you get older and you start seeing how the sausage is made, and you interviews with past members after they've left. And I mean, there's some that I think are just like, dude, stop whining. Like one that I think just whines too much about shit is Jim Brewer. Sometimes he makes some valid points about like some of the crap that you would have to deal with in a writer's room and shit. But like at the same time, it's like, dude, come on.
I think the problem, and like well, he also used to make better points before he realized he could go down a certain narrative and get money to be popular. Like he has progressively gotten less valid in his whining. But also the problem is the time he was on SNL was one of those weird in-between times. Like he landed right after sort of Mike Myers, Dana Carvey, like Phil Hartman had, I think, just left. Like he was sort of that in-between, and before like Sherry O'Terry, and
there was like a weird couple seasons. I would have been in junior high, and it was like Michael McKean had joined the cast. Farley was there. Laura Neitlinger was there. Janine Garofalo. And I mean, it was Jay Moore. Jay Moore's another guy that kind of just whines.
Well, then he was the one who got fired for plagiarism, right? He stole a whole sketch or something, I think.
He might have.
I did a bunch of SNL biographies and memoirs and whatnot about 10 years ago, and I'm pretty sure he was really honest about stealing it.
Yeah.
But it's funny though, because like my senior year in high school was like sort of the year Wayne's World came out. So it was sort of the zenith of like because Saturday Night was really good, and then 1980 it was not.
Oh God. I cannot go back and watch those. I've tried.
Yeah.
Unwatchable.
Yeah. It's so bad because it's really not the cast. You could tell that if the cast were getting good writing.
No, you had some solid cast members. Like, wasn't that
Gilbert Gottfried was there?
Yeah.
It was
who else
before he was doing the character. Like,
yeah, that was original Gilbert Gottfried.
yeah.
John Lovitz was a part of that, and I think, if I remember correctly, I think John Lovitz is the only one that survived that cast.
Yeah, like, so 80 was bad, and then like they pretty much fired everyone but Eddie Murphy. And then it was like Eddie Murphy and Joe Piscopo were sort of the only, and then Billy Crystal came on.
Yep.
At some point. But it also at that point became very much like everyone was there sort of to do the character. Like, and that was all those, like you had Billy Crystal doing like Fernando's Hideaway, like you look marvelous and all that. Yeah. And Eddie Murphy, of course, when he was there between being mega famous. And it was just really, there's some good moments during the Eddie Murphy years of Saturday Night Live, but overall it was forgettable. And then it was John Lovitz and Nora Dunn that they brought in toward the end of all of that, and they kept them around. Nora Dunn mostly because at the time she was dating Lorne Michaels.
Yeah.
And and then Dana Carvey, Phil Hartman, Kevin Nealon, Jan Hooks, Victoria Jackson when she was funny. Or Victoria Jackson.
Yeah. You can, and I think I'm proof of this, you can have a relationship with Christ and still be, fun to have in the room.
Horrible.
Like, I've been around the block a few times, and old Big Guns and JC aren't going to get pissed at a dick joke.
Yeah, right.
I mean, for those tuning in late, if you didn't catch it, I did kind of make a pass at our friend Andrew, and I'm happily coupled.
Yeah, it's a couple, but yeah, no. It was a light pass. It's one that Andrew will be like, "Oh, thank God that wasn't for real," because that's going to be a mess. But,
an entanglement. I'll be all sorts of Jada.
Yeah, right.
Shauna will smack Andrew when she sees him and says, "Keep my man's name out your mouth."
Keep his name out of your keep him out of your mouth, sir.
That's
we went there. Yeah, this is going to be a good one for the replay crew, which everyone on this one's going to be the replay crew. But
there you go, gang.
Yeah, this is what happens when we don't have to watch Chad. Maybe I'll just start doing this more than lives. I'll just start pre-recording with everyone and then do a premiere. Anyway, wait, where were we? Saturday Night Live, the good years.
Yeah.
Which would have been around the time Bravestarr was happening. So
that's right.
It all ties back to Bravestarr.
It does. All roads lead to Bravestarr.
Except the money train.
Exactly. Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, right.
Let's talk about this line and how Mattel, because Mattel, we know you're watching. You listen to Yesterdaze.
I'm sure they watch.
You watch the coloring pages. Come on, we know. You did kind of shit the bed back in the 80s. It is sad that this went the way it did, and it's what's even sadder about it. I was thinking about it recently with our Rankin Bass month.
Yeah.
That how do you not learn from that big of a misstep? Because Thundercats 2011, one can make the argument, same damn thing. Yeah. You didn't position things correctly. But
Bravestarr there's a bunch that was wrong with the Bravestarr thing.
Oh God, yeah.
So since I think I even sent you notes on those. Was back when I would listen to Yesterdaze and send you all the notes. Like, and here's the context you guys don't know. Yeah, I just listen.
Let me tell you something about you that maybe you don't know.
It's really important that you remember in 1986 that this is what it was like. Anyway, because I am that person. This is why Scott Knight would get really mad at me in his comments and I'd be like, "That's not what happened in 1986. I think you need to remember something different, Mr. Nutlick." And and then he would minimize me, and eventually my comment would get deleted. much like his entire channel at the time of this recording.
Waka waka.
Anyway, so here's my hot take on Bravestarr. The cartoon and the toys being not lined up is a misfire, but it's not as big of a misfire as everyone thinks. It could have still been salvaged
if
the toy line had been better. And hear me out.
Yes.
I know people are right now like, Bravestarr was such a good line. It was a good line, but it was poorly positioned.
Yep.
The figures were out of scale with every other figure line at the time. Like Mattel should have realized that part of the appeal of He-Man was that 5.5 scale. Were not any successful figure lines at that time at the scale they sold Bravestarr at.
Not at all.
Visionaries, for instance, not successful. Visionaries out of scale with every other line. With the
that's another weird one. Like, we're gonna build this like a G.I. Joe, but we're gonna make it bigger.
Yeah, like if you are launching a brand new toy line based on a new property, it needs to scale with a popular toy line, so that when kids get one random figure, because grandma doesn't know the difference between Bravestarr or the real Ghost. Like, if Bravestarr had scaled with the real Ghostbusters, it probably would have done it.
Oh right. Shit! Well, and I think if it scaled with He-Man, it would have done tremendously.
Because there are a lot of kids still having those He-Man figures. So that's the number one thing. Number two was it was just too expensive. There should have been a deluxe deluxe figures with all the laser lights and stuff, but there should have been a basic figure line.
100%.
Would have been the same. Again, Real Ghostbusters at the time was probably the most successful toy line.
Yeah.
And
so it was simple.
It was a simple line. It was affordable. Like, I think it was like what, $6.99 maybe for them back in the day.
I think because I had a couple before somebody was like, "Oh no, Satan!
Satan's gonna get you."
I had a stance, and I had an original Fright feature Egon. The tie was, of course, broken.
Of course not.
But they were. By the time I got Egon, I think it was up to $6.99. I think when I got my stance, it was like $4.99, $5.99, something in there.
It was like $5. I had the only real Ghostbuster I had was Slimer.
Yeah.
I should have known then whenever I met that guy in college, and they were like, "We call him Slimer, you know."
I think I'm gonna roll the dice on this.
I was just like, "Oh my god!" But he's so sweet, and they're just like, Slimer. We call him Slimer, and this is why. And I'm like, "Oh, I don't do any of that anyway." There's a first time for everything, and you don't want it to be with Slimer. Nope. Anyway,
sure don't.
You just don't. Like, life lessons with Allison. Don't let your first time be with somebody they call Slimer to his face. And he does the that one.
Oh, bail out.
Yeah, right. I know, and I don't care. I'm on slime and makes me feel good. Anyway,
they call me Dirty Randy.
Right. Call me Dirtbag Steve. Anyway, so for me, and I remember this as a kid when I saw Bravestarr on the toy shelves. I was like, there are no girls, so I'm not interested. So there was that. There was no JB. Again, Mattel, it seems like they would have figured it out after Tila that, like, if you put a strong, cool female action figure, you have appeal. So there was that. The price point was too high. The scale was oversized. And yeah, like those, like the no lady in the line, that's more like there's a certain part of the audience that killed it in the water. But I really feel like your toy line has to have even Ghostbusters, like all of the ghosts and stuff appealed across the aisle.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't know. That's just always been my sort of hot take on what went wrong with Bravestarr. It's why the New Adventures of He-Man also, none of those figures were compatible with the original He-Man, and there were people who still had all of those toys. Like, we still had all of. I was not doing toys in 1990. 89.90. That was my Wilson Phillips phase where I had the wedge haircut like China Phillips and suede vests that I would wear with like white Oxford so that I could like, you know, let people know that someday somebody's going to come around and make them want to say goodbye.
Say goodbye?
Yeah. Till then, baby, are you going to let them hold you down and make you cry?
Don't you know?
Things will change. Things will go your way.
Things will go your way.
Hold on for one more day. Anyway, the day Carney Phillips followed me on Twitter back when Twitter still counted was one of the highlights of my life.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh.
But, yeah, but I mean, I think that, I mean, so yeah, like, but I really feel like that's what sort of went wrong with like Bravestarr was just like, it didn't work with anything.
Yeah, the scaling issue was a problem. And it's, you know, it's funny you mentioned that because I think it was the same month we did Golden Girl. We talked about we did King Arthur and the Knights of Justice, and Jason, our other co-host, made a very fair point about that because those figures were very Motu-esque. And I mean, you even had like a slime pit that was never released, but was the Motu slime pit for that line.
Yeah.
It was teased on a card back, but you know, he made a really good point. He's like, if you're Mattel, if you're Hasbro, why aren't you making these all? And I was so proud because I'm pretty certain he said the word buck. So he learning.
He's learning.
He's like, why wouldn't you? He learning. He was like, why wouldn't you scale all these together so, you know, you can bash them around together and play with them together? Isn't there more appeal with that? And I mean, I will say like some lines that did that really well. Like there were some lessons learned for sure, and some companies that picked up on that at least for a while before they started becoming unhinged with the designs. Would be Kenner and Toy Biz in the 90s. Because that Marvel superheroes line, first of all, it scaled with your old superpowers. It was close enough in scale to your any Joes you had that you could still have fun with it. But when Kenner got DC licensing back, and was like the Batman lines and stuff like that, they scaled close. So your Spider-Man could have an adventure with your Batman.
Not only that, they when they did the Robin Hood line. I mean, yeah, some of that is like, oh, we can reuse the tooling from Superpowers.
Sure.
But at the same time, those Robin Hood figures scaled with the Batman and the Superpowers and all of that. So like, even in the 90s, like, you know, like they bring back Star Wars, it's sort of the same scale.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's built so that while they're a little bit shorter than, say, like your Jurassic Park toys, they're the like stance and stuff. You know, we make fun of the stances and everything, but at the same time, they fit in with the action figures kids were getting at the time. Yeah. It wasn't until it started selling really well and there was a huge adult they realized, oh, adult collectors who want something more accurate are buying these. That Kenner Hasbro at the time started scaling, you know, like suddenly they became less overly posed and more what they are now, which is, you know, mini statues or whatever that are meant to look just like the actual thing.
And you had some of that in the 90s. Like, as much as I like it, and if I see them, I want to try to buy them and scoop them up. The Total Justice line.
Oh, yeah.
Those were kind of a preview of things to come in regards to like stactions, and because you couldn't do, they looked great. The battle armor on them was pretty cool. Yeah, but you could not do jack shit with them.
Those also scale with a lot of what Toy Biz was doing at the time. So like,
yeah, because Toy Biz went off the reservation with some.
Oh yeah, they got really super. Yeah, I had a couple. I remember sending off for the Reverse Flash that was in Toy Fair. I had the Huntress, of course.
Yep.
I had the Connor Hawk Green Arrow, and I'm pretty sure I had Kyle Raniere, the Green Lantern.
God, that was a good one. That him with the armor was a good one.
I would have only bought the ones that like I didn't have from Superpowers because at the time I was I mean, Star Wars at that time was like they could have put out like they could have put out the guy with the ice cream. Well, they did, and I did buy it. It's just like anything action figure Star Wars from like 95 to 2010, I would have bought. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's just, I don't know. Like there was a sense of them trying. All the superheroes were sort of in scale between companies. When they tried to do GI Joe Extreme, those were still in scale, sort of with Star Wars, because they were sort of like 3 3/4 or whatever. So like I don't. It just seems really weird that it seems to be mostly Mattel that seems to not be able to grasp the scale is important. And you would think they would, as much as like like they scale a bunch of stuff with Barbie.
Yeah.
But when it comes to boys' toys, they can't like. I will say though, it seems
like a sticky wicket.
It seems like they've maybe gotten the notice though, because you do have the wrestling line using the the Motu Origins back, and also the cartoon collection. Even though they're using some new sculpting, those still scale with Origins. So
it does seem like they've learned some, and that's probably because the people working at Mattel and Hasbro now, they're our age.
Right.
They grew up with this crap. I'm like, why couldn't I have this?
Yeah.
I will make this now.
Yeah. So hopefully, and they did recently renew the trademark for Bravestarr.
I did see that, and actually, that opened up a conversation on Twitter, on the Twitterverse, between Colt at Dad at Arms, Pixel Dan, and I. And we got to going back and forth about it, about who owned what, and yada yada yada. And I think we talked about this. I feel like, and Colt and I messaged about it. We feel like we sold Pixel Dan on the idea of like Bravestarr probably needs to be a part of Origins, the way Sunman is. Like, it's too good. And he's like, that's brilliant. And then like, what was it, like a week later? He drops that, not even a week, like 4 or 5 days later, drops that video, what we're missing from Origins, and somehow Bravestarr comes up, and he's like, hey, Mattel, put that in the line. I'm like, he said it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the way trademarks and stuff work, like even back in the day, Filmation created Bravestarr, right?
Right.
So they own, whoever owns Filmation, which I believe is Universal, owns the concepts and the characters. But the way it worked even back in the day, even though Filmation owned it, Mattel trademarked Bravestarr and a bunch of the names. So even if, and Mattel can do that because they've released toys and stuff. So currently the way it works is Mattel owns the trademark to the name Bravestarr, even if they don't currently have rights to make Bravestarr toys.
Mm-hmm.
Which I guess, like if you're going to release a toy called the Marshall, makes sense.
Right.
Because you definitely can't call it Bravestarr because Mattel definitely owns that trademark. But Mattel technically could not send a cease and desist if you were to make a figure named the Marshall that looks like Bravestarr, because they don't actually own the character. They just own the right to make toys named Bravestarr. So it's copyright and trademark are really
fun.
Yeah, everyone's so creative.
Yeah, well, anytime this kind of stuff happens, I'm just like, I'm sorry, do you not like money?
Yeah, I mean that's exactly how I often. Well, it's like sort of the eternal like lack of She-Ra, like Princess of Power stuff.
Yeah,
and
like,
an origin
scale pop, we're gonna buy it.
Yeah, right. It's just, I don't know it. You would sort of hope that like sort of the same people who were laboring under the misconception of like She-Ra killing He-Man weren't still there, like because it's like it's really clear when you talk to or watch interviews with the executives at Mattel who were on the Barbie and Shiro side of it, that's not at all what actually happened. It was just that thing where it's like they kept sending out too much product at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Of characters that weren't going to sell. And even, like, I forget her name because my research isn't in front of me right now. But in the Powers of Grayskull, she even says, like, what killed Shiro's, we sent way too much product for wave one. And she's like, it's not that we oversent, it's that stores over-ordered it and then they had it and they didn't want further waves because they still had all of this wave one stuff sort of sitting there.
Yeah.
And, and sort of where it falls at Mattel at that point is, probably realizing maybe we don't need to send 100 gazillion million Angelas out or, that many glimmers. Maybe we should be introducing wave two. And the 17th case that Dillard's department store is ordering should have been all new characters instead of more wave one or whatever.
Yeah.
Or maybe they should have got more cowl out there because you can tell based on what resale on vintage cowl is, they didn't ship enough cowls back in the day.
Yeah.
I say this is somebody who had to order my cowl from Sears to get one because he never showed up in our local stores.
Boo. I think the gal in question, I want to say her first name was Christy, but I'm probably wrong. But I know her last name was Varney.
Yeah, it was the Jan. I want to say Jan Varney, but I'm
Jan Varney. I'm thinking Jan. I know it was Varney just because I did a damn Ernest show for 5 years.
Yeah, well, Adam at Battle Ram blog. I don't know if it hit the main site or if it was just a Patreon perk, but he recently did an interview with her.
Oh, cool.
Where it was a written interview, I think, but it was cool because I'm like, oh, that means she'll do written interviews. I'm like, I need to get the ball rolling on my She-Ra stuff that I want to do because I would love to chat with her. Just ask a few, and about some of the other Mattel. There was Kenner had Glamour Gals, if you'll remember.
Yes, I do.
And almost right at the same time, Mattel suddenly released a miniature Glamour Gal-esque line called Dazzle. It came out like during year 2 of Glamour Gals and died about the same time Glamour Gals did. And I would suspect that part of what killed Glamour Gals was suddenly there was a second line of miniature dolls on the toy pegs that were taking that 4-inch doll line money. So it's almost like a Barbie and the Rockers and a She-Ra and the Golden Girl situation all over again.
Who did Spectra? Was that Hasbro?
That was Hasbro. No, Spectra was Mattel.
Oh, okay.
And I'm trying to remember what released at the same time because Hasbro at that time, I want to say, was releasing some sort of doll line for girls that was a little bit more action oriented. Yeah, pretty much anytime Mattel does something that's not Barbie or like not a licensed thing, like say Wonder Woman, it tends to be because there's some competition happening at the other toy companies. It's like when Hasbro tried to do Maxi.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, Barbie gets like a sassy 15-year-old cousin. I don't know. I will say whoever is in charge of Barbie now doesn't seem quite so aggressive in their counter programming or whatever. Because at this point, Barbie is pretty, but Barbie also is evolved enough that like, you don't necessarily, like there was a time where you kind of needed Violet Easton to do sort of a, black doll line for black girls to have actual, more than Barbie's friend Christy. And, have you been to the Barbie aisle lately? Like it's pretty amazing. Just there are Barbies with like vitiligo. You can get Barbies sort of a basic Barbie in a wheelchair now. There are Barbies that come with prosthetics. Like they've done whoever's at Barbie now has done a pretty good job of like you can get a doll named Barbie that pretty much is going to match, you know, like your daughter or, you know, whichever child you're buying them for, because, you know, women little girls are buying all the toys now. So it was just really interesting that, like, I was looking through, because Entertainment Earth does cases of, like, the various lines, and just their basic fashionistas line, which is, I'm going to say, like, $10 to $12 for a basic doll. Like,
yeah.
I just saw this crazy
like
variety.
lines right now, or 2 or 3 lines right now, as far as styles concerned, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, there's sort of the really basic that you find like at the checkout line at the grocery store.
Yeah.
It's like $5-6, and there's like the 10 to 12 fashionistas. There's I think it's called Lux, and it's like a little bit more expensive.
Yeah. So. There was you asked if I've been down that aisle as of late. Because you know I'll go toy hunting when I can solo, but I'll do it with him here and there. And we did some light toy hunting on the way back from picking up a table saw this past weekend. I meant to message you about this. Yeah. I saw this one Barbie, and there was 2 people I meant to message, you and one of my best friends, Dave, who lives in Texas. And I think I was going to say something along the lines of, well, I didn't need this Barbie when I was a kid because I found my way anyways. But hallelujah, they're introducing thick, hip-equipped Barbie.
Oh yeah, no,
because she was like hip-equipped with like pink hair and what have you, and I'm like, oh
yeah, no, there's. I've got a couple of those actually, because what I will do, because at some point I'm doing a doll soap opera. So like I've been, you know, every so often I'll go on eBay and just put in Barbie lot, and there'll be like 10 to 12 trashed Barbies for like $10 plus shipping, and I'll order. I've got drawers full of dolls. And every so often, like, you know, they'll mark some Amazon, of course, you know, people will. I guess we don't need 17 of these made-to-move Barbies with, like, red hair, because red hair women are witches. Anyway.
Well, if that's the case, they put a spell on me.
Yeah, right? So I'll pick them up, you know, for doll soap opera, and it's like I've got one that has, like, purple hair and big hips and, like, you know, like, and even the face sculpt, it's not a tiny little Barbie face. It's actually a face that's in proportion with the, you know, the sort of a chunkier body. And I'm just like, this is really cool. Like, I would have enjoyed Barbie much more as a kid one of the nice things about She-Ra was she had those thighs. Like, it's like,
I would be lying if I said She-Ra didn't have a effect on me.
Yeah, right. Well, it's funny. In The Powers of Grayskull, Justine Danzer, one of the people who helped sort of design the original recipe She-Ra, you know, before some of the Filmation stuff got in there. She was, you know, like, set in that. Like, they would spend so much time in meetings where, like, the dudes were just sort of being shitbags about She-Ra's thighs, like, you know, because She-Ra, they, you know, they wanted her to have, like, thighs that looked like she could pick up a tank and throw it, basically. And I don't know, like, it's interesting. Again, it's really interesting to me that we've sort of reached this point where, like, we've got stuff like that now. Like,
it is pretty cool. It is pretty cool. And I think what's nice about it too is it helps kids, period. Doesn't matter what color you are, doesn't matter who you are. It helps you realize with your play pattern that there is a much, much, much bigger world outside your front door.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, one of my favorite strawberry shortcakes as a kid was Orange Blossom. Like, I loved her. I played with her a lot. I'm not even going to pretend like having Orange Blossom as part of my regular play pattern probably didn't hurt with, like, you know, didn't obviously I feel like I'm a better person because like my play patterns always included a little black girl. So so much so that I didn't think about. Oh wait, no wait. How do I phrase that so it doesn't sound like I'm about to say I don't see color? Because that's not true. I was very aware I had a little, I was playing with the black doll. I very much enjoyed having a black doll because I had friends. Oh God, now it sounds like I'm gonna say, but I've got black friends. Anyway, I enjoyed having diversity in my childhood. And
wait, is this a Jason moment? I can say that my daughter's
no, right? Oh my God, Jason, if you watch this, sir, I gasped. I gasped. It was like, I was ready to airmail my ukulele to Jason on that.
He gets a lot of joy out of playing my foil. And I think that comes from the fact that we've known each other since we were 7.
It did almost, I did sit there and I'm like, but also like that sort of was, I don't want to say that was fun. I want to say like I had a moment where I'm like, he also might be fucking with us. And like, this might just be.
Oh no, that is
okay.
Very quickly. And it's funny. Shauna and I were talking about it tonight. Ever since recording it, and especially since releasing it, I'm much more relaxed, and I've become much more relaxed with Jason, because there's times we've talked and I've had to be like, dude, like I'm kind of upset, and he's like, you have to understand. He's like, it is going to be boring if you are just for 30 to 45 minutes talking about a property, no hiccups, no nothing. No. He's like, I want to rattle the cage a little bit. And it's funny. He's like, I know what buttons to push to get a reaction out of you that you're going to be your funniest when you react. I'm like, okay, that's fair. And I was like, well, let me ask you this. I was like, are you going to be offended if like I think something goes too far when I listen to the raw audio? And I'm like, yeah, we're not putting that in. He's like, no. He's like, I want this to be a good show. I want this to be enjoyable. I want you to have fun in regards to me. He's like, because if you're not having fun, then why are you doing this?
Yeah, what is the point?
And he's like, if you listen to something, because I always listen to the raw audio once Dustin, just in case there's like something like I had a bad read or something like that, and be like, hey, can you cut this? Here's the timestamp. Or for the most part, I leave Dustin to his own devices when it comes to the editing, because he knows what the fuck he's doing. But every once in a while, if it's like, can you put this in here? He's like, oh, I'm way ahead of you. That's what I was already thinking. But every once in a while, I'm like, yeah, I think that joke needs to be just for us and the patrons. I think we need to watch that. And nobody ever gets too high strung about it. It's usually like, I don't know that's a good idea. Like there was one time.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
There was a particular episode, we've talked about it before, that caused a kerfuffle with a friend, and we were talking about it, and I ended up telling Dustin, I was like, I think I want this cut from even the raw audio.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's just the raw audio. I'm like, yeah, but if something happens, he's like, no, I understand. I get where you're coming from. I'd feel the same way. So
it's funny. I did the episode of this. I did a pre-record with Emily Cantaloupe from Hasbro Star Wars Vintage Collection, and I made a joke in it about a YouTube toy tube person. It wasn't a mean joke. It wasn't a bad joke or anything. It was just a joke.
Right.
And but I went and cut it, and I went and edited it out, and not because she didn't even, she laughed because it was a pretty funny joke, but I edited it, but it was also not. But it came down to the point where it's like there are the things we do, like, you know, there are things you do when you're friends hanging out talking. There are jokes that play, because you have a certain understanding, you know each other, like, and that doesn't translate always on the internet. And I also didn't want her, after, you know, being really generous with her time and laughing at my joke, you know, she could have just been being polite, but I definitely didn't want sort of like, oh my god, she's laughing at this YouTuber, like, and then having it be a thing when it was like I made the joke, she didn't.
Right.
Like, cut it. Like, and I also had that moment as I was doing that edit where it's like I might be overreacting here, but I would rather overreact. If it had just been blowback on me, I would have probably just let it ride and fingers crossed. But I wasn't gonna do that to my guest. So, especially when, you know, like, that sort of blowback for somebody like that has a job like that, like,
yeah, somebody very forward facing and stuff.
Yeah, like, I mean, I have no, you know, like, Disney's not going to watch my episode. I mean, allegedly, like, they were supposed to check it before it went live, but that kind of didn't. I mean, not Disney, but, you know, it was supposed to be sort of vetted a little, and it didn't happen, which is fine. But, you know, if something weird would have come up because I made that joke and she laughed, you know, we live in an age where it's like if a company thinks something went too far, even if it didn't, they'll fire you. Like, and I wasn't gonna have somebody suffer because I made and it wasn't even that good. If it had been a really good joke, I probably would have. I would have been like, how can I salvage that?
Like, we're talking Type 5 material.
Yeah, right. Like, this could go viral, and I could be famous, and then I'll be an influencer. It wasn't that good. So it definitely wasn't worth it. It's, you know, like, sometimes you have to just figure out, like, what's worth the blowback, or, you know, like, there are all times we have calculated risk. Like when I do my never ending story short that has the coloring page of the horse drowning and dying, like
Atreyu.
Yeah, right.
What was it?
It's actually in this coloring book for the never ending story. I'm gonna do that. I could very well get
shit. What was the horse's name?
Dead Meat.
Yo, my heart. Here she is, my lovely, lovely darling. I'm running low on juice. She's bringing me the charger.
Aw, that's amazing.
I'm pulling a nightlick and using my wife's laptop.
Oh.
Let's see here.
Oh my goodness. Not the wife's laptop.
That way. I kept meaning to turn off the stupid thing where it keeps fluffing my work clothes because, you know, I'm worried about wrinkles when I'm delivering chewies. Yeah. It's like my socks, pajamas, and work clothes. So I'm not really worried about looking crisp. That's a slice of my life.
Oh my god, I got a package delivered and he was not in a crispy uniform. I'm offended.
It's plugged in on by the drying rack. Should be. If it's not there, then I unplugged it and I wrapped it up and put it in my lunchbox. You look great in those jeans.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I couldn't resist. I mean, when I say I couldn't resist, that was just my automatic response was to do an oh yeah.
I will never, ever, ever stop flirting with her.
That's very sweet.
Like I can't. I physically can't. I've tried. No dice. I wants and I needs. I got a fever.
Well, no, no. Let's not do the cowbell joke because you're referring to your spouse, your wife, your partner.
She makes me feel like when I'm climbing the rope at gym class.
She's a reminder of when things didn't hurt all the time when you breathed, just by existing.
Exactly.
I had a guy stop dating me in the 90s because I had too much to drink. I know, like, shocking, right? It was the 90s. We drank too much. Anyway, he made a fashion choice, and he was just like, how do I look tonight? Thinking I was going to say he looked really good. He was a little bit older than me as well.
Okay.
Like 20 years older than me, but whatever. He had a good job, and he took me to Tower Records and bought records CDs at full price for me. Like, it was the 90s. I was broke. I worked at Blockbuster still. Okay, guys. Anyway,
I dated women much older than me.
And then I did date his son for a while, who was the same age as I was, so it worked out. Anyway, that was awkward though, because like he didn't know that I had briefly dated his dad.
Ooh.
And his dad, I think, put it together and then we pretended like we didn't know each other, because that was the first time I found out he was still married. Was when I went to meet the family, right?
Anyway.
And anyway, because that was not something I
longest Thanksgiving of my life.
Yeah, it was pretty awkward at that point. But anyway, I didn't keep dating the son after that, because I'm like, this is pretty weird. And anyway,
I'm gonna go.
Yeah, well, no, I waited until I ate all of the food, because it was a pretty good. They had a nice house. They were
nice spread.
They were very well to do. Anyway, like and this is part of why I felt like it was fine to go find his son. After seeing his son in family photos at his house, and thinking, oh wow, your son's pretty hot. Anyway, I was a mess. Anyway, he showed up and he's like, how do I look? How's this out? And I'm going to be honest, somebody my age wearing that outfit, it would have been debatable. It was like John Travolta in Grease meets Cardigans. Like the sweater, not the band. And and I was just like, you look like somebody who's trying too hard, and you smell like cigarettes and broken dreams. And
so Grease and a Cardigan. So basically, it's the last act of the movie. Sandy.
Yeah, right. But not even like that. But like,
there were no chills. They were not multiplying.
Yeah, it was. It was so dry that you could have called me Mrs. Ben Shapiro at that point. It was like a tumbleweed came tumbling by when I. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not gonna.
We haven't had rain in these parts in nigh on to 2 years.
It's been 7 hours and 15 days since the tumbleweed came tumbling out, and anyway. So yeah, but we stopped. Yeah. So anyway, that was the story. He was very offended because I told him he looked like he was trying too hard and that he smelled like cigarettes and broken dreams. And then I was listening to a Jewel song, and I was like, I should put that to music, but it never quite worked out. So. But really, like, you took your coat off and stood in the rain. You look like cigarettes and broken dreams. Anyway, it should have happened. Like,
should have shot your shot.
Yeah, I should have. I should have just been like, I'm Facet, and this is my new song.
Well, at that point in time in the 90s, I mean, you could have been.
I could have, and I was in Austin, so I could have ran into Sean Penn at a coffee shop and been famous.
You very well could have.
I just should have moved into a van to.
Would you have fancied yourself more Jewel or a little more Liz Phair?
I would have been Liz Phair. Like,
I always would consider myself a bit of a Lisa Loeb.
Oh, I like Lisa Loeb.
I no joke, love Lisa Loeb. Shauna and I will sing the shit out of Stay.
That's a good one. My friend Natalie and I used to get really wasted at parties, and we would put on. We had a set list. It started with Spice Girls, "Say You'd Be There," and we had like choreography figured out. And mind you, we were the only two people at these parties dancing. It was like, okay, we've listened to like Silverchair enough now.
Oh God, I was just fucking thinking about Silverchair the other day.
Yeah,
so I don't know why.
I'm sorry. Like it just sometimes Silverchair just happens. It's like chlamydia. You just accidentally think about Silverchair sometimes. But it was like, say you'll be there, then Lisa Loeb, do you sleep? And then we would like both go through the front door open and we would take turns standing in the door, angstily singing and kicking at stuff. Yeah. And then we would wrap it up with Come On Ride the Train by the Quad City DJs.
Hell yeah.
And Brittany and Fauna did not appreciate when we referred to them as Michelle, Tamika, and Tanya. And they'd be like, that's not our names. I'm like, but you did ride the train last week, right? Shut up. Anyway.
You shut your mouth.
It was not a train. There was only 3 people. Like, it's a caboose at least. Anyway.
3 people a train does not make.
And then we would cackle, and then they would get even more mad. So, yeah. Anyway. Oh, the 90s. Oh, the 90s. I miss them sometimes. Not often, but sometimes. I miss the feeling of it, not the reality of it. So.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair.
Oh,
I miss my car in the 90s. I've been occasionally doing like marketplace searches. I would love to find a 1992 Pontiac Sunbird. That was my first car.
There you go. I had a K car my grandpa gave me for high school graduation. It was a hand-me-down, but it was a free car. So
hell yeah.
And then I replaced it with the Nissan Sentra, which is the car that sensible girls drove in the 90s.
It's a sensible car for sensible Americans.
Yep.
From Asia.
And it had a tape deck. So I didn't have to pay as long because the one with the CD player was more expensive. And I just had the cassette adapter so that I could use my Discman in the car. It was the best of both worlds, really.
That is a bingo.
Right? Oh my gosh. When I first got the internet, I realized, because you couldn't necessarily, it wasn't like now when you buy a computer and it's just, of course it comes with the CD burner, right?
Yeah.
Not everything did back in the day, if you'll recall.
It did not. That was opulence.
I figured out really quickly that you could take... Oh, Matt's sneezing in the background.
Bless you, sir.
I figured I could take the CD adapter thing and the little plug-in. I could plug it into the speakers on my computer and then put that into my boombox and then record whatever MP3s I was listening to onto a cassette tape.
Science.
Yep. So I was making mixtapes when everyone else was burning CDs because it was just would have been too expensive to get a CD burner that would work with my compact. My expensive compact with 7 gigs of memory for the whole thing. I spent extra to get those 2 gigs over the basic 5 gigs of memory.
Well, you got to get the extra too.
You got to get the extra.
What?
That's what's funny.
Oh, come on now.
All of us who had like those little 5 gig computers and we were downloading all the songs from like Napster and oh my god.
I don't think LimeWire was a thing yet.
It was
it? Yeah.
LimeWire was early mid 2000s.
Yeah, that's
how most people got their first computer virus, I think.
Yep.
You want a computer virus, but you want all of the songs Metallica didn't want you to have on Napster? Yeah, let's do it.
I'd be an idiot not to.
Right.
It's like, oh, LimeWire. It's like the first burner anybody ever hooked up with, or the first reason any of us needed a Z-Pack or penicillin.
Yeah, exactly. I remember just, like I still probably because of course the computer I had in like the mid 2000s is still in a closet somewhere, but I probably still have everything I ever downloaded from LimeWire on there. I mean, I probably can't get into the computer because of all of the viruses that came with it. But
I was gonna say that sucker's a ticking time bomb.
But I just remember, like, like the funny thing about LimeWire is how it encouraged you to be a hoarder with like music. Like, I really like that song by Glenn Campbell, and you would type it in, and like 3,000 Glenn Campbell songs would come up, and you hadn't even heard of most of them, but you're like, hey, they're here, and sure, I need the complete library of Glenn Campbell.
There was a music service like that when I went back to college because I was non-traditional. I took like 2 years off, and then I worked on my my bachelor's at good old Bradley University. And I want to say it was like 06, they introduced this service. This is like when I don't even think Spotify quite existed yet, but it's like when they were starting to try to legitimize streaming services. Basically, this early days of streaming services, it was called Ruckus, and it was just for college campuses.
I remember I personally didn't have it because I wasn't in college, but I was dating somebody in college who probably that sounds really familiar.
One, it was fucking rad, but it was the epitome of hoarding music because I had such a strange mix on there, and then you could build your own lists from that. So I had all kinds of, because I'm a crazy person and I like lists.
Yeah.
And I my mania comes out in strange ways. I had so many different, like, this is to get me hyped up for this. This is in case so and so comes over to watch a movie.
That
I'd like
relatable.
This friggin' Whitman sampler.
Well, I would though. Like I am not a fan of the Dave Matthews Band, but there was a point in like 2005 to like 6ish where I was involved with somebody who like travels to see Dave Matthews, right?
Oh no shit. Okay.
And I don't like any Dave Matthews. Like I don't enjoy it at all. Like at all. Like satellites come on and a part of my soul dies. And, but he would come over and hang out. So I 100% downloaded every Dave Matthews song on LimeWire so that when he came over, I would have something to play that he would like.
Yeah.
And I also it was not long after a really bad breakup when I had moved up here. So I had way more alone time than I should have.
Yeah.
And also went a little mad. And there was but when I have friends, I might have a friend who likes Hall & Oates. I mean, who doesn't like Hall & Oates? That's a bad example.
Yeah, come on now.
I might have a friend who likes Phil Collins. So yeah, I did download some, and Phil Collins isn't obviously to me as bad as Moby, but Seuss's studio just makes you want to commit Seuss anyway. And say that and get demonetized, and I can say that as somebody who has attempted to unalive myself a couple times during the dark times, and gallows humor is my way of surviving.
And that's what we call a bingo.
Yep. So to anyone who can't joke their way through, you're obviously not Gen X.
Nope. Nope, you sure ain't.
Are you on Twitter? I mean on TikTok, not Twitter.
No, that is one that I'm just like, meh. Like Sean is on it.
No, I recommend not getting on there until it happens.
What's that?
Don't get on there until it happened, because I didn't get on there on purpose. I just ended up on there, and I'm just gonna say, there's some fun stuff on there right now. Some little beautiful zillennial child did a TikTok, and it started with, you guys, can we make a generalization about how terrible Gen X is? So every time I log into Twitter for like the last week, it pulls up and it's that clip, and then right after it's followed by somebody from Gen X just tearing into her in the way only Gen X can.
Oh, good.
Like there's one where it's like,
I don't think you understand what you're biting off.
Right. The first one I got was obviously a Gen Xer, and she's like, "Girl, don't call us to the table. You can't handle it." And
you are
right after that, it was
corn.
Right after that, it was like her, and then right after the clip was like a guy like, "Who the fuck asked you anyway?" And it was
well, I think based on that alone, I might be.
Yeah,
well, on TikTok.
Yeah, right. It's just, it was cracking me up because I was just like, yeah. And then also last week, somebody was like, somebody needs to talk to Gen X about their overuse of the ellipsis, and I'm just like,
excuse me,
no, you don't.
You, Allison, personally know that the ellipsis is my favorite punctuation outside of the interrobang. And I'll be damned.
100%.
Like punk ass kid who can't even rent a car tell me that I need to cool it with an ellipsis. You can bite my ass.
Anyone who's like, you can't tell anything about tone in text or whatever, it's like, this is why we have the ellipsis, because the ellipsis is like dramatic pause. You're either about to get zinged or we're about to mutually make fun of somebody after these 3 dots.
Exactly. We are the generation that grew up between analog and digital, and we learned to adapt. And that's why a lot of us don't fight about how a text message comes through if we're talking to one of our own kind, because we know how to do it properly.
Somebody at one of my writers groups was like, yeah, we don't do double spaces after periods anymore because they're unnecessary. I'm like, that's how they taught us to do it. And they were like, but you don't need it in email. I'm like, yeah, but you're printing out the pages of my story you're going to read, so you definitely should appreciate those extra periods. And they were like, well, you shouldn't do it. I'm like, well, I'm sorry that if you can't read my story because you see 2 blanks after a period and you don't know to keep reading. It just hurts my eyes. And I'm like, you hurt my eyes.
It hurts your eyes.
I'm not in that group anymore because I was like, I'm not.
Well, it sounds like you're richer for it.
Definitely, because it was also, that particular group was on the other side of town for me, so it was a lot of gas money to get there. So
fuck that.
Yeah. It was pre-pandemic. After pandemic, it's just like if you're not going to do it on Zoom or StreamYard or FaceTime or whatever, I'm not coming to your house.
Yeah. I will say that is one delicious thing about the pandemic and isolating together, whatever the fuck they called it. It made or break people. Like obviously the divorce rate went up. So I think on one side, you found out what your marriage was made out of, or your relationship was made out of. 2, you kind of rediscovered how great home can be. And the joys of sweatpants.
I rediscovered, like, I don't like a lot of the stuff I used to leave my house to go do. And it's been really easy since all the lockdowns ended, when people were like, oh, do you want to come over and we'll do this? And just, no,
I sure don't.
I'm going to stay home. If you're going to do something on Zoom, I can Zoom in. And they just looked at me like, I'm like, I don't need to come to your house. Like, there are very few things that agree to come to anybody's house, as I've realized. And it's like, and one of my friends got really sort of pissy about it. I'm like, no, think about it. I come to your house. I'm not going to wash dishes on the way out. That's your job, right? If I'm here, I eat my own food. You don't have to cook for me. You're not going to have to wash all 5 of my cups, because I will, if I go to somebody's house and like they have I don't have a set of cups. Every cup in this house is different. And that way, if you and it's ironic because here, the only person who might pick up my cup and drink out of is either Matt or one of the cats. Well, not that they would pick it up, but I'm also just to the point where it's like I'm old. It's sort of like with parents. Like if your kid comes and drinks after you, even if there's going to be slobber in it, it's your kid.
Yeah.
Like if Matt were to drink out of my cup, I'm not going to care. If one of the cats sticks its face in my cup, I'm going to be mildly annoyed. And if I get cat fur in my mouth, I'm just going to spit it out. Like they don't really do that though. They're really good about. They don't like Diet Coke. It helps. All the water bottles are actually covered, but if I will go to someone's house and they have matching cups, and you're like, oh, that's so nice. And but then you set your cup down and you don't know if somebody else touched it and drank it. And so you have to clean like 6 to 7 glasses if I set my glass down at any point to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
So this is a selling point. You don't have to wash 17 glasses. I'm not going to eat your food. When I get diarrhea from whatever you cooked the next day, I'm not going to send you an angry message like, did you put mayonnaise in that and leave it out too long? Not going to happen. So.
Like I'm now, I have like very set circles of people, and those are people who I will like Josh, the mentioned Josh Robertson, or Ben, the fourth man who does the website. Like all our kids are about the same age. We'll get together, we'll grill, we'll have some cocktails, like classic, hey, let's get out on the patio and let the kids run out the energy. We'll do that. But like even when we get together, like just the guys, like we refer to it as stupid. We'll and it originates from a house I had like about 2 years ago. We'd always kind of gather and break bread on my front porch till the like fucking 2-3 in the morning, just drink beers, smoke cigarettes and bullshit. We don't go to bars. We don't go to beer gardens. We don't do that shit. We just like, it's 3 or 4 of us. We get together. If it's cool, we'll get a fire pit going and we just sit and bullshit. I don't want to go out. I don't want to go to a bar. I don't want to deal with idiots at a bar. And I don't know how people my age go to bars and do this crap. Like, what is wrong with you?
I went on Saturday to have coffee with a friend. Well, I went to write, and then my friend who's like wanted to hang out for a while. I'm like, well, I'll be there for a little bit if you want to pop in. And that was that's sort of the limit. Like, that was nice.
Yeah.
It was like 15, 20 minutes. They drank some, then they left, and I wrote for another like 10 pages. And then I was leaving, and another friend was like, hey, I didn't buy you anything for your birthday. How about if, them and their partner were like, let's go to the food carts and get some food. And I'm like, yeah, okay. That took a lot longer. That's why I didn't. For those watching, this is like the weekend after my birthday weekend. We're filming this at the very tail end of April, but that's a Saturday night. I didn't jump on Oz's stream because I ended up being out late at a food, but nobody else was at the food cart. Nobody's actually going places. Like everyone gets everything. People were showing up getting it to go. So we just sat and talked for a while, but it was people I actually wanted to talk to. It's people I actually enjoy their company. And what I have realized post-pandemic is, well, let's rephrase, post the lockdown phase, because this pandemic is never ending. It's more manageable pandemic now.
Yeah, it's not the shit show it was 4 years ago. 4 years ago.
Yeah, right. What we're dealing with now is the I don't even know what we're calling the stage of it, but the chartreuse era of it. But I don't know. It's just, it's kind of cool. Like in this phase of it, like I'll hang out with the people I really like hanging out with in person if the stars align. But I'm not gonna, like, I went over Christmas to a friend's in my current writers group. My friend who runs that, who I've known for 20 years now, wanted to have a little gathering with just a few people, and she made food, and her food is the bomb.
Yeah.
And it was a fun night. We went, and I ended up bringing printing out a bunch of coloring pages, and we all sat around and drank beverages and ate fun finger foods and caught up in person, and we colored.
Yeah.
Like, it's just spontaneous. I just printed a bunch up for her because she and I sometimes will jump on Zoom and color. She's an art nerd like me.
Yeah.
But it was just, I don't know, it was really fun, but it was also really like, it was actual people I enjoy being around. And I think that's one of the things post-pandemic, post the lockdown anyway, that I've, you know, it was really easy during the pandemic to not hang out with people because you didn't want to get sick and die.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole staying alive thing sounded.
Yeah, it sounded really good. I don't want to die. But what I did realize once we, I just heard my taxes come out. What I did realize, but what I did realize is to a degree that there are some social interactions that I did beforehand because I didn't know how to say no. But those also were dying a little bit. So I don't want to die internally now. On the cellular soul level, I go in and hanging out and doing things that are boring or stupid or I don't enjoy. So
yeah, there comes a point where, and it really doubled down once I turned like 40. Like, if I don't want to do something, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
And I'll even throw alternatives out there. Like, look, I don't want to do this. I'm too old for this. And yeah, age, it's a frame, whatever that bullshit is. And you're only as old as you feel. Yeah, but at the same time, there comes a point you do certain things, you feel a bit ridiculous. So, like, I have a friend, and I'm, you know, I don't mean to pick on him, but it's like, he's single. He's a little bit older than me. He's somewhere between mine and your age. And he's still single, which there's nothing wrong with that. But it's like every year for his birthday, he's got to make a big to-do about it. And so I want a big group of people and we're going to do this. And I'm just, there's some people who go to it that are my age or older. And I get it. They had kids fairly young and now their kids are older. So it's like, I'm going to get back out there and have fun with my wife. When that, you know, the kids can be at home, they're going to do their own thing. They're going to see a movie tonight. Me and Diane are going to get some beers with the Everleys or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And that's fine and well. But like, when you are about the same age, but you have little ones at home, like, dude, I can't just drop everything. Like, you want to hang out, you want to do something, you want to grab a bite to eat, you want to come over and spend time. That's phenomenal anytime.
Right.
Like, I can't go to a bar on a Friday night or even a Saturday night and hang out and do all this shit. I got a 5-year-old that gets up at like 5:30. Hey, Daddy, can we watch cartoons? Daddy, can we do this? And I'm the way I grew up, my kid ain't waking me up and I'm going to be hungover. That shit ain't happening.
Well, not only that, it's like,
I got shit to do.
I don't, it's funny because like, I don't, despite the messy stories I tell about my earlier years, I don't have substance abuse issues. I mean, there are definitely times I drank too much and probably shouldn't have. And of course, you have to apologize because you, in my case, no filter. And no filter for me is really bad because I will just, yeah. Anyway, you know, sometimes you just don't need to know that you don't look good in a yellow hat. And if you don't look good in a yellow hat and you're wearing one, and there's a phase in my life, if I'd had enough to drink, you would know by the end of the night that you did not look good in a yellow hat. Because every time you would walk by, I'd be like, you don't look good in a yellow hat. Why are you doing that to us? And that would, of course,
what are you doing?
Right. That would, of course, progress to how many giraffes died to make the yellow in that hat? Does Paddington Bear know you stole his hat?
What's Curious George like in real life?
Yeah, exactly.
I can relate to that because I was kind of that shithead. Although I will say, if you met somebody like out and you were kind of roasting them because you know you got a little bit of the creature in you, and they leaned into it, it's like, okay, come sit down with us. You're drinking with us. Like, there was one night I was out with some best friends and shit in college, and we're at this one place we would frequent quite a bit. And this dude was there. He was there by himself. And we kept referring to him as Mystery. And we kept going, Mystery. a bandana and like wrap around, like ski goggle, Bono sunglasses and everything.
Oh
he wasn't quite like Mystery and the Pickup Artist, but he could have been part of his entourage. And the dude he leaned into it, and he had a good attitude. He's being funny about it. And it's like, all right, bud, come sit with us, come drink with us. Let's bullshit. And he was a nice guy, but still, I and my friends were being shitheels. And
I mean, there was at least two gentlemen. I guess not that they qualified. In the late 90s, the entire reason we met was because I was rude to them in public. They let you leave the house looking like a reject. I mean, I can't remember what the exact, because there were many. That was my amaretto sour phase, where it was more of the sour part, if you will. Or the, I can't believe your mom let you leave the basement looking like that. Anyway, at least two different dudes I hooked up with and dated for a while were into that for a bit. They're the same kind of people who would go to those restaurants though, where you get insulted by the waitress.
Oh, big fan of Ed DeBevics.
Yeah. I can't do that because my natural instinct is to start insulting them back.
Yeah. And I would do well in Ed DeBevics.
Yeah,
it would get ugly very, very quickly.
It would get as ugly as my waitress. Anyway, so yeah, just thinking about being in that environment, that just happens.
I can't help it. It's natural, damn it.
Man, there's no reason to be ugly. Oh wait, I'm sorry. You can't help it. I tell this story often. There's this girl we went to college with named Tina, and I had somebody at one point ask me, why do you keep calling her slutty Tina? And I would be like, because calling her ugly Tina would be rude. She can't help that. So yeah.
That is going to get you a double Van Helsing right now.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a Sassfault thing. But yeah, I mean I think actually been one of the Sassfault things, and that's from real life. I mean, her was not actually Tina. That's the fictionalized part of it. She had a different name, but we did call her slutty, whatever her real name was. And somebody was like, well, why and again, I'd had a couple, let's see, what year was that? So I would have, at that point, it would have been Bartles and James wine coolers, because they were not popular anymore, and you could get them on sale all the time at the grocery store. So I would get a couple of the 4-packs for like $2 or $3, and they would go into my bag, and I would put like 1 or 2 of them in a box of like tampons, and nobody ever questions the tampon box.
Oh no.
So anyway, I would sneak to the bathroom, drink some Bartles and James. It was the cheapest way to drink, to be honest. Anyway, so yeah, that was, but her name was not Tina, but the name was changed to protect the guilty in that. I mean, she's a lovely person, but anyway, she was kind of mean though, so it wasn't like it was somebody who was nice. It was like nobody liked that person anyway.
Yes.
So it kind of was like this is also a Gen X thing where it's like we used to behave in a way where it's like if somebody was horrible or we didn't like them, you didn't have to be nice, and you could be horrible and say horrible things about them.
Yeah.
Which I will agree with the children, the younger generation. Yeah, let's not do that. But if I could go back in time, I would want to meet Snoopy. I wouldn't worry about correcting all these wrongs. So.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
How is your page coming?
It's actually, it's coming along fine. Nice. This is what I got so far. I don't know how well you can see it.
Well, I'm going to make you solo layout. Yep. Here we go. Oh, nice.
Look at that.
Oh, yeah. Looks pretty good.
And I decided I want a planet in the background, so I'm doing that right now.
Do a planet. I add planets all the time.
I used my coffee mug.
Oh, I've got like a stencil for it. And then really quick, I'll throw mine up solo layout. So I actually usually do the background first, but I was like, today I'm not going to do the background first. I'm going to concentrate on the people first. And I still need to do something with the hat, but right now I'm just sort of shading in the orange so that he slowly gets to orange status. There we go. All right. It's a good time to check in. We are getting toward the end of the 2 hours. So
are we?
It's like an hour and 50 minutes that we've been on. And then we hung out for 10, 15 minutes before we got going. So, which of course that's a good sign, right?
I was having too much fun.
We were having too much fun, and we got too down in the diggity doggedness of it all. Oh my goodness. It keeps wanting to happen, so I just keep leaning into it. The more ridiculous I can make the Southern saying, the easier it is to not have it happen to me.
I sometimes like to slip into like Southern lawyer. It's all perfectly legal.
Right.
I'm no fancy big time city podcaster or nothing of the like.
It's like my father used to say, there's nothing like rough trade between two friends. But that's when I overdo it, that's why I will sometimes like overdo the accent because it's obviously not real. So it's easier to break out of that, but yeah. But yeah, what was the other thing I used to always have these fake Southern sayings I would throw out and people would just sort of roll with it thinking, oh, people in the South must really say stuff like that.
Now I had a fake one like that. I've never heard an actual Southerner say it, but I loved saying it. I'm gonna work hard for you. I'm gonna work harder than a cat trying to bury a turd on a marble floor. I've never heard anyone from the South say
I've
that.
never heard that either before, but I like it. Like it sounds like something
like they do.
The one I used to use is, oh my God, you look like a Twinkie that got stuck in a gutter. Which again, I don't think anyone from the South ever really used that, but it's a good visual, like because you can picture like a Twinkie in a gutter.
It does work because it's like, oh God, that Twinkie's messed up.
If Andrew is still watching at this point, he's going to be like, could I get that Twinkie in the gutter's phone number? And I'd be like, I don't know Canadian phone numbers, maybe.
How does your strange Canadian phones work, sir?
Oh my goodness. I used to work at a cell phone company and their quality, not like the people, I've worked on the side where like I've worked in all aspects of the cellular phone industry. Enough to know that it was not a cellular phone because it did not have cells. It was a mobile phone.
Oh.
That was one of the things I would have to correct when I worked at the actual manufacturer side of it. It was Samsung, whatever. I don't know if they even still exist in the United States. But anyway, I worked in their tech support. So if you needed to know how to use your phone, you would call me. And they sold one of the phones in Canada. So this is the first time I'd actually ever talked to Canada. And one of the things we had to do when somebody called in was we had to ask for their zip code. And of course, nobody had in training told me. And I lived in the South, so it's not like school was that good down there. And I was like, could I get your zip code? And they're like, my what? My what? Like your zip code, the numbers at the end of your address. And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. And they kind of had a little bit of like the Canadian French thing. They were not Celine Dion, but picture like a Celine Dion's snooty brother.
Okay.
And then it was like, oh,
to speak of.
And I was like, your zip code. And the girl next to me was like, they have postal codes in Canada. And they look like this. I'm like, that's that weird thing that I keep seeing in the system every time I go into that one account. Because there was one person we only dealt with through email and they were in Canada. And I was like, so then instead of just correcting myself, because I was very brash at that age and couldn't admit I was wrong or didn't know something. I'm like, like your zip code. And then I was like H2, and like I made up something that's sort of pantomime. Oh, you mean my postal code? We call it a postal code up here. I'm like, well, I'm not sure that.
I don't think that's right, sir.
And I was just like, well, it's the same thing, and it's the same thing, obviously. So why don't you just? Well, you need to know the right thing if you're in Canada. I'm like, but I'm not in Canada. I'm in the South. And then this person, this lovely individual, was like, well, do you all ride horses and wear hats down there? I'm like, I haven't ridden anything in a while, but I can guarantee it's not a horse. And then of course that made him more mad. And then
was that supposed to be like some sort of weird Vancouver insult?
Yeah. And then he was like, well, anyway, I'm calling to boot my phone. I'm like, slow down, James Bond. I didn't get your zip code. I mean, your postal code. And he rattles it off and he's like, whatever. And then it has a Z in it. And he's like, Zed. I'm like, Zed, what's Zed? He's like, like Zed. I'm like, Zed is dead. And then he goes
Zed's dead, baby.
He's like, A, B, C, D, E, F, and Z. I'm like, Z. We say Z in the United States. And he just got more mad. And then it was the best part of that whole call, though, is at the end of it, he should have called his cellular phone provider because he was calling about his voicemail not working. So that was my first experience with a Canadian. And I'm like, everyone says they're so nice, but between Bryan Adams and finding out way too much about what Dave Coulier likes to do in a movie theater with Alanis Morissette.
Hey, cut it out.
Yeah, whenever the first time I heard that, I'm like, that is something I never needed to know about Dave Coulier. It's like, no wonder Alanis was angry. She got to the United States and realized she was dating Uncle Joey. Like, ugh.
Yeah.
Poor girl.
Poor Alanis.
Yeah.
Poor
Alanis. I remember watching her on You Can't Do That on Television.
Yeah.
When I remembered, because when she came out, I'm like, oh, like that girl that used to be on You Can't Do That on Television. Because that name it's not a common name,
No.
And, yeah, so that's a good time for music. I went and saw her in New Orleans one time.
NOLA.
Yeah. Nobody from, like, that's one of the funny things when people are like Nolans. It's like nobody actually says that. People from New Orleans who say it sort of say that that's sort of a natural accent, and that's not exactly how they pronounce it.
Yeah.
But so I can always tell when somebody's not from Nolans because that's how they're saying it. But you just let those people keep talking. And then they suddenly start talking about putting tomatoes in the gumbo, and you're like, "Oh, you're not real Southern at all."
You get the fuck out, sir.
You're talking Emerald bullshit here, sir.
Yeah.
That's what Emerald does. It's like, no, Emerald is not from. No.
Isn't it funny how people will like ascribe one person's decisions to like an entire group of people?
Yeah.
It's super cool.
It's like I always say, if you put tomatoes in your gumbo, you have not made gumbo. You are making a weird spaghetti sauce.
You make a spaghetti.
Oh my God. Somebody touching my spaghetti.
When you talked about that, I was like, oh my God, somebody else remembers that cartoon.
I didn't see. Okay, here's the deal. I did not know that existed until like 7 years ago. My friend Angelique is an amazing stand-up comedian in the Portland, Oregon area. In Vancouver, Washington, not Canada, Vancouver, Washington. She does open mics and shows in this area. Yeah. She and her daughter like totally would watch Vines together. Of course, it's a Vine thing, and I didn't do Vines because I was too old. But she told me about it, and I'm like, oh, I love the idea of this. And then I watched it, and I'm like, oh, this is a little. Well, it's not technically racist because Italian isn't really a race, but it's so ridiculous and over the top that it just cracks me up.
Oh yeah.
So, did I tell the story on that episode about how I rickrolled her with it?
I think you did.
I maybe
was it that episode? I feel like you talked about rickrolling somebody.
Yeah. So well, it wasn't. So what I did, it was when I was learning how to edit at the time. And for some reason, we would, and we still did on TikTok. We message each other with TikToks back. She really digs TikTok because it's like fine, except a little longer for the most part. But we would message each other back and forth, and just send like YouTube or whatever. And she would send me all these vines. But we both got obsessed at the same time with Matthew Wilder's song "Nobody's Gonna Break My Stride." So I took the video of that because he does not look like a pop star.
No.
And so anyway, I went and edited the video. So I posted it on her Facebook back when everyone was doing Facebook. I uploaded the video that I edited. And then when it's like the opening line, wait. You said you had to get your laundry clean, and then right after that, what did I say? And then I cut it to somebody touching my spaghetti. And that was the end of the video. And of course, we all died.
Touching my spaghetti.
Yeah, because it was just it was a perfect sort of combination of like sort of these weird rabbit holes she and I had ended up laughing about together, and it was a mashup like on Glee.
Yeah, I was actually just listening to some Glee mashups the other day.
Oh my God.
Bon Jovi Usher one.
It's pretty good.
That is a banger.
I quite enjoyed the Shelby and Rachel cover of Poker Face.
Yeah, that was a good one.
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't work, but it does. And their cover of I'm Not Going to Teach Your Boyfriend How to Dance with You. I prefer that to the original. So it's one of their more obscure ones. Their cover of Friday by Rebecca Black unfortunately did not surpass the original.
I mean, some things you can't touch.
Some things. Somebody touching my spaghetti, but you're not going to touch. You're not going to touch.
You're not going to touch it on Friday.
Rebecca Black, because she was underage, gentlemen. And then when she was of age, she was like, surprise, I don't like the men. It's like, you're like, you go, girl.
Here's something that popped in my...
Oh, no.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
Oh, did you freeze?
No.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, this popped in my algorithm. What? Probably because I think I was catching up on one of your streams when I was on my route, and Natalie Portman and Moby came up, and I was like, "Oh, I want to look something up." And then there's this guy who occasionally shows up in like shorts, recommended shorts and stuff, and this was like this disgusting phenomenon that existed when I was in high school and like graduating high school. Countdown clocks to like turning 18. And there was one for Natalie Portman, and it's like, I didn't need a reminder that those existed.
Not only the countdown clock for Natalie Portman was pretty grotesque.
Yeah.
And I don't say this in like this is a good thing. It kind of made sense because of sort of some of the roles Natalie Portman took. Like The Professional, there are a lot of people who over-sexualized her because of that role. She had that role in Beautiful Girls where she was over-sexualized. Yeah. And the Star Wars nerds, I mean, they were obviously, right? Yeah. The one that always grossed me out the most was the countdown clock for the Olsen twins.
Ugh. Yeah.
Because the Olsen twins started as babies. And the only people who, for the Olsen twins, it would matter that they were underage, would have been watching them since they were babies. Like,
yeah, that was. And I had like a couple guy friends. Like, they turned 18. I'm like, oh, so are they going to go on a date with you?
Yeah, right. Nobody's going to date you, sir. Much less famous babies from the television. But then everyone's like, why are the Olsen twins so messed up? And why do they refuse to do any sort of public relations anymore? And how dare they not be on Netflix for the revival of that show? It's like, gee, why would they not
Gee.
be interested anymore? Because they're mega bazillionaires. They don't
Yeah.
have to put up with your shit, Carl.
It's kind of like that, guys being like, yeah, they turn 18 on this date. It's kind of like that story we shared, the Sydney Sweeney, Madam Web shit, the guy getting busted in the theater. Like,
Yeah.
Dustin was perfect on that. Yeah, but she's going to see in the newspaper that I did that. And she'd be like, wow, that guy must really like me.
Oh my God, right?
You
Yeah.
fucking idiots.
It's like my old joke that the one time I was going to do an open mic, this was one of my jokes. It was right after John Wayne Hinckley had gotten out of prison. I'm like, and I'm going to slaughter it because, like, this is why I didn't do open mics, because I would always die up on stage. But it was, John Wayne Hinckley. He should do like a podcast called like Fostered Truths. And, or like the original alpha, because he's 100% like one of these alpha male types. Like, because he kind of is. Like, if I do this thing, I'm not even gonna say it because like that's the sort of thing that gets you the Secret Service looking at you. And I'm not. That's not my audience. But like like the fact that on some level in his brain he was like, oh, it'll be just like a Taxi Driver. Like,
oh boy.
Yes, Jodie Foster. Sir, have you gotten the memo about her? The one that we all knew about before she made it. Sir, we knew when she was on Freaky Friday. Rewatch Freaky Friday. It's really evident that you were never on Jodie's hit list, as it were.
Yeah, sir.
It's just not. It's not going to happen for you. Sorry.
It's one of those phenomenons that I'm just like, I don't always understand humans.
It was like when people were surprised about Joan Jett, I'm like, really? That one shocked you. That shocked you. You were shocked by Joan Jett. Okay.
Be shocked about Rock Hudson. Okay. That okay. I can bite it being shocked.
I can see that one.
But Joan Jett,
George Michael.
Yeah, George Michael was like another one.
Yeah, there were people who were like, "Oh my God!" It's like we've literally been making jokes about that for like 20 years now. Come on, guys.
Come on, man. Or like when this is legitimate because I've met older people who were like, "Yeah, I was a little surprised by that when." Like Liberace. I don't know if Liberace ever actually came out. I think it was more like after his death.
Yeah.
His younger I think it was his friend back in the day, but it was his partner.
Yeah, his paramour.
Yeah, like, and you were like, Liberace. I couldn't. I'm like, okay.
Well, it's fun. We're almost to that time.
Nuts.
On that, this is a tale for another time. When you come back, we'll talk about Nellie Olson from Little House and her connection to Rock Hudson. No, not Rock Hudson, to Liberace.
And actually, speaking of Rock Hudson, I've been meaning to bring this up on the show, but we're going to do it here. I actually deliver to his cousin.
Interesting.
And the whole family's very nice, but like her son is a very handsome young man. It's like, he came out, he was like working on the car. I hadn't seen him in like months.
Oh, he came out of the house. Okay.
He came out of the house.
It's like,
this was about 2 weeks after she told me. She's like, yeah, we were just talking about weird celebrity stuff. She goes, Rock Hudson was actually my cousin.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, really? Blah, 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 blah. And then at this point, I had not seen her son in the better part of about 4 to 6 months. Yeah. He's a young man. He's like very early 20s, like 21, 22. And he happened to be home. He's like coming out because I'm talking with her and her husband. And this is after she had told me. I'm like, then it clicked. I'm like, whoa. Yeah. I was like, he bears a striking, like just the jaw, the face, everything. Just he's a young man, but he's very classically handsome. Yeah. I was like, okay, no, now I see it. So that's just a weird thing that popped up in my life.
That's what Rock Hudson had going for him back in the day, was that sort of that jawline and that classic. That
guy he had that jawline you could set a watch to.
Oh yeah.
I don't even know what that means, but I'm gonna roll with it.
Yeah, no, that's why I did the oh yeah. I'm like, we'll sell that. We'll make that. That's the new thing. It's money, baby.
There's so money you don't even know it.
All right, so we're gonna call it good. Well, I mean, I still need to finish the hat and do something with the background, but I will do that offline. Take a picture so it's ready when the episode goes live.
Can I show off my finished product?
Let me make you the star of the show, kid. We're going to the top. We are. There we go. Oh, nice. Oh, very nice.
I even gave Fuzz. I even gave Fuzz like the little Flintstones lip thing.
I see that.
And I got so crazy that like if you get close, JB, I gave her a little eyeshadow.
Yeah. Well, you also gave your planet a little moon. So
I did.
Yeah. And that's definitely a moon and not a space station. So good job there.
That's no moon.
It's a space station. We shouldn't start talking about Slutty Tina from college again because my filter is about to run out. Anyway. Really quick. Let me put mine up there. Like I said, I still need to do the hat and the background, but there we go. I went a little bit more realistic with his skin tone.
Yeah.
But he looks like a little storybook gnome or some such. So, and I gave her the blue eyeshadow from the 80s because
nice.
That's what would have made the most sense. She looks a little bit like Anne Romano from One Day at a Time. So, I don't hate it. She was one of the first ginger redhead celebrity people that wasn't an evil witch. So, she's an early hero. Like Medusa from The Rescuers. That was not a good role model for me to have as a child.
No.
Ginger.
No. See, that's why the whole redhead thing, that is why the Wooderson figure from Movie Maniacs is perfect for me. I love them redheads, man.
Oh, Wooderson.
Be a lot cool if you did.
Right. Oh my gosh. They keep saying the same, and I keep getting older or whatever.
I get older, they stay the same age.
I will say when I lived in Austin, it was right at the point he was sort of blowing up. So he and Robert Rodriguez often would host like events for for the various film institutes and stuff. Yeah. And a group of us went very much into Mr. McConaughey. Like, oh my God, he's dreamy. And we got there and he'd been drinking and he had a mouthful of chewing tobacco and a big old bubble, and it wasn't a good bubble butt, it was a big old bubble butt. So we all ended up following Robert Rodriguez around like puppies that night because he ended up being the attractive one.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show you never know who the cute one really is when they're not all made up for camera. So
you never know.
All right. So, I would say specifically what you have coming up, but since this is a pre-record. So, in general, where can people find you, Derek J Hoover?
Well, let's see. I could probably... About what month do you want this to come out? June?
This will be either the second or third week of June.
So, if it's in June, we're doing Awesome Anniversary Month. And that is going to be Ghostbusters, the film, 40th anniversary. Nice. Superpowers Collection, 40th anniversary. Yeah. Batman 89, 35th anniversary, and Rainbow Bright, 40th anniversary. So that's what's going on in June. Okay. And you can find me on X at Derek J Hoover or the show at Yesterdaze Pod. But you can, of course, find us at our website, yesterdazmedia.com. That's where you can see the upcoming episodes, what we got scheduled. I try to do write-ups every week for the properties that we're covering. And we are on YouTube. We've been going back to old episodes. My darling Shauna has been making like videos and doing like slideshows with them. and getting those up. So
knocking them out of the park.
She has really been doing a tremendous job, and now she's getting into editing videos because she's been doing some patron exclusive videos, helping me with that. And now she's gung ho about a patron exclusive project that we're going to be doing the patron only extra episodes every month.
Nice, that's really,
that I talked to you about.
Yeah, and we want to, just so that way if they're not out yet. But if you are interested in that, you should go join the Patreon.
Yeah,
Patreon.
we try to add some extras on there. There's what you get raw audio, which that may not sound super appealing at first, but I sing the praises of Dustin, our editor. I think he really does do a tremendous amount of work for the show. There's a lot of podcasts out there, and I think everybody for the most part goes into working on their shows with a great deal of effort. But Dustin is that right kind of crazy, that sweet spot where it's just, in my opinion, north of brilliant with his song drops or audio drops. He's something else. So
the cutaways I really appreciate the cutaways. Like they're really good.
Man, he's like a mad scientist with it. But the raw audio, you get to hear what it's like before he makes it a show.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And like I'll post production notes and stuff, so like get an idea of like how things are scripted. And then once a month, I try to do kind of like a little vlog kind of thing, like the status of like what we've done, what we're doing. I think the scheduling for this is going to be about 2 to 4 times a year. Patron exclusive specials called Adult Orphan. More or less my opportunity to share my childhood trauma with you through the lens of nostalgia and see if we can all learn something from it.
And who doesn't love childhood trauma?
It's delightful.
It's the best.
And I do believe this is our goal. Like I said when she came down here during the recording, she's in the middle of finals right now. But our goal is to start fun size Yesterdaze in June, and we're hoping. We know the first episode is going to be the story of Ninja Turtle pies, and it's just the idea of that is just like a short something we can't do a full episode on. Like 15, 20 minutes, and it's just going to be me and Shauna back and forth. So that should be interesting.
That'll be good. It'll be good. I was just going to say that could be a test, but no, it'll be fun.
I think we can have a lot of fun with that, just kind of riffing with one another. So yeah. So it's June. What do you got? What do you got coming up? Can you spill any?
Yeah, first there's a quick disclaimer. Derek will be on X if X still exists in June. So if you go there and it's gone, it's not Derek's fault. We pre-recorded. Grimes' ex-boyfriend might destroy it by then. What I have, it's June. What's coming up? We're at the very tail end of my daily shorts, a short a day for a year. It should be ending roughly on July 14th. We need to look at the exact date again. So check out the daily shorts. In June, there will be a coloring and flip through, which is either the Monday before this lands or the Monday after this lands. Of the Golden Girl coloring books, all of them. I'm gonna do a flip through and then color a page. And I believe there will be a solo episode of My Favorite Toy with me. And I believe that one is it'll either be She-Ra or Birthday Bear.
Okay.
I haven't quite decided the timing of that, so it'll be one or the other.
I think that's been like my favorite addition. Outside of the coloring, I think that's my favorite thing you've added, that and your catalog go-throughs. Like when you go through like a Kenner catalog.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It started, My Favorite Toy started because I did that really long 12 minutes, but that's long for the stuff I normally do. I did that.
Is that long for the children on YouTube?
that's long for like a video that doesn't have like, say, like the coloring flip throughs. Like flip throughs are usually about 4 to 5 minutes, and then the coloring's about 12. So those will go 20 minutes, and the compilations will go 30. But like an actual content toy history, I don't like doing more than 12 minutes. But my favorite toy started because the large size Princess Leia video history I did originally had the personal story and coloring with it, and then went into the toy history, and it didn't work. It works better as separate content. So
yeah.
And by the time this lands, it'll be around the time that I'm scheduling the first part of season 2, my favorite toy, which will have, if we can coordinate everything, we'll have Derek and the crew from Yesterdaze talking about their favorite toys.
That is right.
So, and that's exciting because that's, by the time this lands, I'll be talking about this more. So yeah, we can talk a little bit about quote unquote Retro Toy Princess season 2. I've got a lot of fun new projects coming and new content, and some of the older stuff. I'm almost out of toy booklets, so you gotta replace it with something. Huh?
Buy more.
I would say, okay, great idea, but literally, I pretty much bought the last of what the Hasbro Kenner made. So.
Oh no!
Oh no! Yeah. So anyway, but I've got some other toy booklet adjacent things, but it's still too early. I don't know if that's gonna work.
Okay.
So yeah, no. Anyway, yeah, and this will be one of the last Kenner Hasbro booklets that'll hit.
Okay.
During the time this episode plays. So yeah, so go enjoy it because we're almost out of this.
Get it while you can.
Get it while you can, children. Get it while it's rough.
You never know how good you got it till it's gone.
Until I do a supercut where I put them all in a single 12-hour video so that we can get that watch time up there, children.
There you go.
That's Christmas content. What are you doing on Christmas, kidults? Watching this 12-hour toy booklet from Kenner.
Here's the thing. That's some shit I would do.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who
I would just sit there. I get like because it's winter and I'm all cozy and it's freezing in Illinois. I'm like, got my cheese and sausage as is our way here.
As the 2 to 3 hours of watch time I get every week from 2 to 3 minute videos of old Kenner booklets tells me there are a lot of people like, willing to sit and watch them with some good synthwave. So
if there are people out there, Ben, I guess I think it's fine to call Ben a producer or web manager. If Ben makes time to sit down and watch long form shoe shine videos to unwind before he goes to sleep, yeah, I think he can rock the toy booklets.
Oh yeah, it's like a memory of a nostalgia of a thing you once owned. I enjoy it. I mean, that's why they're there, because I enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I like watching them. I like my content. If it's on my channel, I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I get too bored and it never happens. So. Anyway, with that, we should go.
We should.
Yeah, because it's been about 3 hours. So.
Holy guacamole.
Yeah, because we're at like 2 hours and 23 minutes. And
I'm notorious for that. I'm sorry.
I know, I am too. So between the two, this is why eventually when we do the and Derek and Allison Know Things podcast, we're going to have a really good producer.
We're going to have to get our shit together.
Right. We're going to have somebody who's like, children.
Yeah. You know what? Shauna's good at that. She can moderate and she'll be like, hey.
Yeah, like I just heard that people at home, if you heard cats screaming the song of the unfeed in the background, it's because they should have been fed 5 minutes ago, and that took care of it because we're doing this stuff. So between the cats and Shauna, we will have natural stop times. So.
Yeah, we gotta figure it out.
And on that note, thank you, Derek, for joining me. He'll be back, children. Oh no, I'm calling everyone children now.
Children.
children.
Would you like me to tell you a story, children?
Remember, children, if you lean down further into the well, I can drown you without much effort.
Look at the flowers. Look at the flowers.
Just remember to always think of the rabbits, George. Always think of the rabbits.
I get to tend the rabbits, George.
Wait. What was it Bridget Fonda used to say in that movie? I never did mind about the little things. And that's your deep cut for the end, children.
Enjoy.
And with that note, thank you again, Derek.
Absolutely.
And so Allison Troy, Retro Toy Princess, I will see you all on the flip side. Ooh, you guys should do kid videos sometime.